Welcome to Clock Tower. I'm Brandon, and today we're going over an administrator deck. Recognize normally this is a week for a clock talk, but we're going to push that off to next week this week, just due to timing and whatnot in real life. So we're going to put this deck out for you. I'm looking forward to the clock talk next week. Starting off, we have an overview of the deck, looking at what the administrator deck looks like in its entirety before we kind of dive in, looking at it more by level. So as we dive into level 0, couple different zeros to help us move forward throughout the game. Starting off, we have this Alice that on play, you can look at the top card of your deck. If it's a character, add it to your hand and discard a card. And then when this swings, if the damage it tries to deal is cancel, it can run to stock to help try to build stock in the early game. We have the back row Quinella. Quinella and Administrator basically are the same thing. Any effects that require Quinella or typically use Administrator as well. The lone exception being the first ability on this card. When you can play this card down on field, you can put one card from your hand into Clock, and then search for a card with Administrator in its name. Typically this allows you to get the level 3 piece that you use to resonate with for the resonate ability and the second ability. But you could also use this to get your level 1 combo. So it's a very interesting card that allows you to clock self, search, and get an administrator to hand. The Resonate is a pay 1, rest 2. Look at 5, and then you choose one character that you find from among that, put into hand. We have an administrator that allows you to mill 2. If there's a climax in it, you can side attack for free, which the mill is important to help get some of your search targets later into waiting room. This is also a drop salvage, so kind of help provide things to be able to salvage already. Also pretty useful later in the game, be able to target specifically and have a target ready to go. Another administrator on play, you can surveil 1, which means look at the top card of your deck and either leave it on top or put it in waiting room. And when a climax is placed, you can then bounce it back to hand and choose one of your characters to give it additional power. So it's a good way to help boost up your level 1 combo or boost up later combos depending on whenever you play the climax. It also helps increase with hand size too, which is going to be helpful for later in the game. We also have this Funny Clown, which allows you to essentially cheese your way to sticking a climax into your opponent's stock, and you can sacrifice it to stand Administrator or Quinella. So you could potentially resonate again or something along that line. It's an interesting card, very much a very unique and situational effect. Then you also have the Kirito that allows you to scry 2 and rearrange them. And then on a climax play of your opponent, it can run to stock. So another way to, again, help generate additional stock, especially early on. Because as we move into level 1, our level 1 combo is an actually really interesting combo. Because on attack, you pay 1 and you mill 1. If you mill a Fluct-like character, you can then perform a standby. So it's on attack, pay 1. So you need to have at least 1 stock already in your stock at the beginning of attack phase to be able to do a tri-field of this. And as long as you mill anything but a climax, then you should be good to go and be able to tri-field or be able to stand by out 3 different things. Which we'll look at some of those options in just a second here. But it has a potential to be a really powerful effect. We also run a level 1 bomb that when placed on stage mills 2, and if there's a climax among it, it gets additional power, so it becomes a 6k. So it could actually reverse something, stay on field, and then become a bomb for the next turn. And we also run a Leaf counter. The bomb's really good if, for example, you don't have enough stock to be able to pay 1 initially. You can use that to build up the stock to then pay it out for the climax combo. It's a decent lane to be able to have on field at level 1 to help try to maintain some advantage. As we look at level 2, we have our standby targets, the targets we would want to bring out through the level 1 combo. We have the Sword Golem. This is your massive wall that you're trying to bring out so that way your opponent can't do anything about. Base 9, if you have another administrator in name, becomes a 10-5. When reversed, you have to clock yourself and then rest it. It can stay on field very effectively because of that. It also has 3 souls, so it's coming in and swinging in for massive amounts of damage. And you don't need to slam a climax every turn, because it basically is. And it also combos really well with this anti-healer. because it gives a global assist of level times 500. So it would add additional 1,000 to the sword golem, making it 11-5, and forcing your opponent to have anti-heal, so that way they cannot heal normally. They would need to use things such as stock healers or healers that act in a different way. Anything that goes from clock to waiting room, that action becomes more expensive, or they have to reclock themselves again. So like they could do it technically, and then they clock themselves again, or pay an additional 2 to heal per card that is removed. So a lot of your traditional early plays are then, your traditional early play heals are kind of countered in that sense. As we move on to level 3, we have 3 different level 3s that are going to be really helpful to close out a game. We have the Quinella that allows us to essentially add more cards to hand with a change effect that bounces it back to hand to put the level 3 combo piece down on field at the beginning of climax phase. When it's placed on stage, you get to heal to the bottom of your deck, so it goes around your own anti-heal. And then you can pay 1, discard 2 with the climax when you play the climax to spawn out a character from waiting room and give it on attack burn 2. The real good target to do that with is this Alice, which then allows you to, when this card attacks, pay 1, discard 1 to gain additional power, and then when you reverse something, you can then burn 1. If you do the combo right, it becomes an on attack burn 2, on reverse burn 1 from this card. So then all of a sudden you have 3 instances of damage off of this one card, and it becomes really helpful, especially in closing out the game. So as we look at this deck overall, level 0, you're getting the level 1 combo pieces, you're getting that climax, you're building stock, so you have enough stock to be able to pay for the level 1 combo. You're bringing out your wall pieces, you're bringing out the anti-heal, so you're trying to wall up as much as possible so you can win board and then swing big. Preferably into first deck, where your opponent typically has the worst compression they're going to have all game. Level 2, you're trying to maintain that. Going into level 3, you're looking to get level 3 combo in fields to get those additional burns, bringing in the Alice, that way you can continue to burn that way as well. As we look at this deck from a more competitive level, I would really put this at a locals level, because it's very dependent on your combos to do well if your level 1 combo misses. Because that tends to happen, because if you reveal a climax or mill a climax, your combo fails, and you've milled a climax, so now you're less likely to cancel on your next turn. It can spiral out of control very quickly if everything goes wrong. Along with the lines of the anti-heal, because the anti-heal is one of the big selling points of this deck. More decks have stock healing, or ways to bypass that normal anti-heal. So anti-heal is not necessarily as powerful as it may have once have been. So the deck itself is trying to build off of a effect that is answered in some of the newer, stronger decks. However, it is a very fun deck. It is a very interesting deck to play. So yeah, hope you enjoy. This has been our deck tech for Administrator. Coming out Thursday, we're going to have our last 5 cards, 5 minutes for Magia Record. So look forward to that, looking at uncommons and commons. And then from there, next week, we will be back with the actual Clock Talk. So looking forward to that as well. Hope to see you then, and we'll catch you later.